Hi, everybody. We're back again with more of a great program coming along. So we were just thrilled to enjoy Jamie at Howling's Tomatoes, and they referred to SEAG and working closely with the folks at SEAG, which is the Students for Eco Education and Agriculture, and a program based in Ventura County. And they have a great reputation and do a lot within the county. I know that when we went down to first look in Ventura, we stopped at the Visitors Bureau and we were talking about having a conference about agriculture, and they all said, oh, SEAG, we know SEAG, we work with them. Well, we're very pleased today to have three representatives, Mary Moranville, Patrice Ringelstein, and Caitlin Case. All three ladies going to be sharing great insight on the different programs that SEAG has to offer. You're very lucky if you're from Ventura to have this resource in your backyard. And I will mention that, I don't think I did, that we have the most participants registered in the counties of Ventura and Los Angeles. So we know we're hitting local audience for you ladies. And so go ahead and take it away. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And I wanted to welcome all the teachers from around the state of California. I am the founder and chief executive officer of Students for Eco Education and Agriculture. And yes, we are located here in beautiful Ventura County. And Judy, you already introduced Caitlin Kay. She's the director of Ventura County Child Wellness Initiative. And Patrice Ringelstein is our coordinator for our Farm Lab program. I'd also like to thank you, Judy, Mindy, and Anna from California Ag in the Classroom for asking SEAG to present and for organizing this conference. A lot of work must have gone into this, so thank you so much. And California Ag in the Classroom sets the standard and was the model for me when I founded SEAG in 2008. I don't know if you remember, Judy, but I went up to Sacramento and had to meet all of you. So thank you again. Today we'll be talking about adopting farm education to an online classroom. If you had told me a year ago that we would be putting all of our programs online, I wouldn't have believed you. But I'm very proud to tell you that we already have 1,300 students booked this year for our live ag distance learning lessons. And that is thanks to my team, Caitlin and Patrice. They've done a lot of work over the summer. And you can see by the number of students that we have signed up that the teachers need our support more than ever. And please feel free to ask any questions after each slide via the chat room. I believe Caitlin can ask me the questions, so please feel free to ask questions. And I wanted to start the presentation by explaining why agriculture education is important to me. I'm the daughter of a dairy farmer from upstate New York, and I founded SEAG as a tribute to my father and to all the farmers and farm workers. My hope was that SEAG would create agricultural ambassadors who respected farmers and farm workers, and I do believe we are making a difference. As I said, SEAG was founded in 2008. It started as a program, and then in 2013, I turned the program into a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to educate students, obviously, but I realize that our vision is bigger than that. We really want to inspire local communities to have a deeper appreciation for agriculture and the hands and lands that feed us, and to create agricultural ambassadors at every age. And the first year, back in 2008, my goal was to reach 500 students. And in our non-COVID years, we reach 10,000 students per year. So 500 to 10,000, and I'm pretty proud of that. And from the time we've started, we've reached probably about 65,000 students and community members. Now, today, we have 4 programs. We started out with 1, and now we have 4. Farm Lab is where we started. We go into the classroom and give students an introduction to agriculture. And the second part of the program is getting the kids out of the classroom and taking them on a free field trip to a local ranch, and in this case, Petty Ranch, and he grows avocados, figs, and citrus. And when that program, we do about 60 field trips a year, a little around 3,000 students. And the Ventura County Child Wellness Initiative, when we were educating students about local agriculture and taking them on a journey of food, it kind of stopped. And I realized we not only need to teach kids about the crops that are growing in our backyards, but also educate them on the nutritional values of those crops and really try to create conscientious and kids that want to eat better. And this is our only middle and high school program, our STEAM Careers in Agriculture program, where we teach middle and high school students about all the careers related to agriculture and science, technology, engineering, and math. And I have a nice story about this particular program. When I was teaching this program to a Santa Paula high school, one of the students in that classroom remembered this presentation, and she went on to go to school at CSUCI here in Ventura County. And then when we were looking for a STEAM educator, she applied for the position, and she works for us now. So all you educators out there, you are making a difference, and you are inspiring the next generation to possibly even consider a career in agriculture. So when we were teaching the students, the thousands of students a year about local agriculture and where their food comes from, we had many, many parents and teachers that attended our field trips. And when they would hear facts about local agriculture, they would be standing in the back row, and their jaws would drop when they would hear some of the data and hear some of the facts. And they would come up to me after my presentations and would say, you know, I've lived here my whole entire life, and I've never been to this farm or that ranch. And they would say, is that true what you said about how many pounds of fruits and vegetables are grown? And I realized that we did not need only to reach students, we should also try to educate adults. So I reached out to 10 different growers in Ventura County in 2013 and asked them if they would open up their doors and provide tours to the general public, and all 10 growers said yes, and that was the birth of Ventura County Farm Day, and now we're in our 8th year. And we see, again, during normal circumstances, we get about 5,000 visitors that go out to over 20 different locations. And the growers up in Santa Barbara County heard about the day and asked if we could start Santa Barbara County Farm Day, and we held our first event in Santa Maria Valley last year, and we had 13 different locations and 1,000 different guests attended. So we're really proud of those Farm Day events, and we just held our virtual Santa Barbara County Farm Day last Saturday. We had 2 different Farm Day features that talked about safety during COVID and international global exports of agriculture as well. So I think that's it for me. Does anyone have any questions?
We have a comment from Erin that says we would love to start a San Luis Obispo County Farm Day.
You can help us do that. We will be in touch with you. That's the goal. We want to go all the way up to Watsonville with Farm Day, and we need help, obviously, doing that.
That's great. And we have Ann Temecula too. We love Ventura County Farm Day. It's a very well organized event. We've driven from Orange County several years. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Riverside County and San Bernardino County. That's awesome. Farm Day is definitely one of our favorite days of the year.
So let me just say this, if you are interested in starting a farm day in your county, please feel free to contact us and we can give you the tools and the best practices and a roadmap to help you do it. As I said, our goal is to keep going all the way up to Watsonville, but I think we're going to stop at Watsonville. So if you're not on a Central Coast, or if you don't live in a Central Coast county, please contact us.
Mary, we have one more question. Is Farm Day a one-day event, but at various farms? When you refer to how many locations, is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely right. Yes, it's a one-day event where several different locations open up their doors. So it's row crop growers, orchards, nursery, livestock, you name it. It really gives people a well-rounded view of agriculture once they're able to go to 3 or 4 different farms. That's about all they can hit in one day.
Mm-hmm. And if you saw in the last picture, this is Howling's Tomatoes, where Jamie just did the virtual tour for those that were on there. So in a normal year, Howling's Tomatoes has been on our tour every year, and it's one of the most popular locations to be able to go and learn about your food.
And this is such a good representation of everyone that attends Farm Day. This is not photoshopped. You can see young kids, older, grandparents, parents. It's a multi-generational family event that everyone enjoys. There's something for everyone.
Yeah. So let's see here. I see some more comments. You said there was a virtual farm day. Where can we access the virtual farm day?
If you go to SantaBarbaraCountyFarmDay.com, all of the videos are posted on our website. And then please like Ventura County Farm Day on Facebook and Santa Barbara County Farm Day on Facebook. And also the videos are posted on our Facebook pages.
Here's a question about our programs. Are your programs free to students, teachers, and families? Who pays for student participants in STEAM and Farm Lab programs?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Our programs are offered 100% free of charge. We've never charged a student, a parent, a teacher, or a school. And that's why we're very, very busy throughout the year fundraising and writing grants. So in some cases, your tax dollars go to our programs because we do get a grant from the California Department of Food and Agriculture, which comes from the USDA.
Awesome. And here's a question about Farm Day. Mary, if you want to answer this, how are liability issues addressed for growers? I think in terms of people coming onto their farms.
I think a lot of the farms, I don't know if they did this in the beginning, but I think most of the farms ask attendees to sign waivers, and it takes them 10 seconds to sign a form. And then I also believe that every location, they get a certificate of liability insurance.
This is random, but my FFA teacher from high school is on this call, and she just said, Caitlin, good to see you. So hi, Ms. Stalling. That is awesome as well. If there are any more questions about our programs or about Farm Day, you can continue to ask them in the chat, and I'll answer as we move forward, or Mary will answer as well. And then you can also reach out to us on email, and I can put our emails in the chat as well towards the end of the presentation, and we can answer any more questions that way. Wow. Alrighty. So I think Mary introduced me a little bit before, but my name is Caitlin, and I am the program director for the Ventura County Child Wellness Initiative, which is SEAG's more nutrition and wellness program, but we still talk about on-farm, the importance of farms in Ventura County, the journey of our food from field to fork, and then ultimately the nutritional value of that food. So like everybody this year, we had to adapt pretty quickly to COVID. As Mary said, in a normal year, we'll see up to 10,000 students in person. And so this year was a bit of a waiting game over summer until we found out that most schools in our area were going to be doing distance learning. So myself, Patrice, Mary, and one of our other coworkers, Emily, worked over summer to adapt our programs to an online format. And I'm just going to go over some brief ways that we did that, some kind of like best practices, tips and tricks that we found. And then Patrice is going to show you a couple of the interactive activities that she does with the Farm Lab program. And this is for 3rd grade, but these activities can probably be adapted up and down a couple of grades as well. So for the Ventura County Child Wellness Initiative, some of the things that we learned in terms of like Zoom versus Google Meet, that Zoom has a lot more interactivity and features that work better in a distance learning format as outside educators. It seems to be about half of the classes that we teach using Google Meets, but for the majority of them, the kids have been really receptive to being able to learn Zoom, and I think that probably says something about the generation. These are 3rd graders, and they get the technology pretty easily. So it's been something that was a little bit of a technological barrier at first, but as the weeks have gone on, it's really seemed to get a lot better. Video camera and video editing skills. Over summer, we purchased a Canon Vixia camcorder, which if you're in the market for a camcorder is a pretty middle of the playing field in terms of user friendly and the kind of technology, one that I would highly recommend. And if you have any questions about that, I can answer that too. And then learned the Adobe Premiere video editing suite. And that has been really helpful to create educational videos where we can still bring kids out to the farm or show kids the journey of their food virtually instead. And so investing in a video camera and video editing skills was something that really helped us over summer. The benefits of creating teacher toolkits. We created toolkits for all of our programs. We sent out a few teacher surveys over summer, which showed us that what teachers were looking for the most, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, was short educational videos and at-home activities. So we really tried to create a number of activities that were really low cost, low input, and could be done with a lot of materials that students would have around their house. And then different kinds of lesson plans and educational videos that teachers could hopefully incorporate into their curriculums before or after our presentations. And one thing that we really tried to do with our presentations was increase the interactivity and find ways to make Zoom learning fun. And a lot of that was just based on research and trial and error. So to show you a little bit what that looks like, this is one of our slides from our VCCWI online presentation, where the students guess, it's a guessing game for the top 5 crops in Ventura County. And one way that we make this presentation more interesting is I use the slides as my virtual background, so I'm always on the screen. And with this age group around 3rd grade, that seems to work a lot better. So they can constantly see me and see my excitement and engagement. So we give the kids clues, and then they guess what the top crop is. And this one is avocados, which is the number 5 crop grown in Ventura County. So really finding ways to make things interactive and fun and engaging for kids online. It can be really difficult, but once you find ways to do it and you see the look on the student's face, it definitely seems like a bright point in their day, which makes it all the better for us too. It's one of my favorite parts of the day is giving these presentations. I see a question, how are we able to access these teacher toolkits? They are on our website. So if you go to www.ceag.org, and I believe it's under the resources tab, there's a couple different resources. One of them is teacher toolkits, and we add to them monthly. The Farm Lab teacher toolkit will be updated later today or Monday, and the rest of them will be updated probably about once a week or once every couple of weeks with new activities, new videos. For the nutrition program, we're doing a Journey of Your Food series. I'm actually going to Howling's Tomatoes next Tuesday to film with Jamie to talk about the journey of a tomato. So we will be doing that throughout the school year. We're going to highlight 10 different crops and take kids on the journey of those crops from the farm to their table, and talk about nutritional values and farming practices as well. And I'm seeing, can you put that? Yes, I will put the website in the chat, ceag.org. I can put a better link to our website, to the actual thing, once Patrice takes over for her thing. And then for Farm Lab, another couple of things that we learned. So Farm Lab, as Mary mentioned, was traditionally a field trip to a local farm, which is probably the hardest program to adapt to an online format. So what our wonderful Patrice and Mary and educators decided to do was to split it up into module learning. So we have 3 different modules: an introduction to agriculture, plant and insect science, and soil and water science. And so far, every teacher that has signed up for all 3 modules, which has been great, I think, as a way to incorporate this kind of science and ag instruction into a month of curriculum and broken up into 3 at a time. The importance of attitude and enthusiasm on Zoom, it's really hard to come across as excited sometimes on video. So really making sure that we are as amped up and energetic as possible has been really important. A strong emphasis on visuals, particularly when we are working with students who English may be a second language, which is quite a few students in Ventura County. So we want to make sure that there's equitable access to our education programs for everybody. So we're currently working on creating bilingual materials, but in the meantime, making sure that our visuals are extremely strong and that we're putting as minimal text on the screens as possible. Using features in Zoom sometimes can be really complicated with 3rd grade classes, using things like chat and maintaining and making sure that students are staying on track. But for the most part, we found that Zoom has been able to provide us with almost everything that we need to really do this well. And then other ways to make Zoom learning engaging, and that's where we're going to talk, and I'm going to turn this over to Patrice, who's going to show you a couple of the activities that we do during our online program that were adapted from our on-farm education program. So if I can stop my screen share, and then Patrice, if you would like to take it over.
Sure.
And myself, and thank you everybody again. And if you still have questions during Patrice's, if you want to type them in the chat, and I can ask Patrice the questions throughout as well.
Right. Okay, hi everyone. Patrice again. I am the Farm Lab coordinator here and lead educator with CEAG. And what I'm going to do is take you through 2 of our activities that we've adapted for an online learning format here with CEAG. And as Caitlin mentioned, or didn't mention, maybe we'll mention at the end, all of this information and our objectives, our descriptions, our materials, all of this will be available through the toolkit that we'll give you access to at the end. So you can get a better idea of how to do this if you would like to recreate this. And please ask us questions if you have any questions throughout. And then please keep in mind throughout this that these programs were created for 3rd graders. So, you know, you can maybe lower the intensity of the language and the vocabulary or up it depending on who you're teaching. I really do think these lessons are adaptable and teach some really solid lessons about how science is used in agriculture to keep our food healthy and growing. So for our first activity that I'm going to walk you through, this one is called Soil is Alive. So this is a microscope activity. Yeah.
There's nothing, the screen is black on mine. I don't know.
There's that.
That's great.
Great. Okay. Got it. So walking you through the first activity, which is our Soil is Alive activity, which is a microscope activity. So our objective for this one is for students to observe and distinguish between living soil and dead dirt through direct observation. So they'll be introduced to the roles of organic matter, protozoa, fungus, water, and bacteria in healthy soil. And so what we use for this is a nice healthy teaspoon or so of healthy soil. And I really like to use compost. So if you have that available, it's really good. It's full of organic matter and all types of living organisms that look really cool under the microscope. And then also I get just a sample of dirt. So I went and got a sample of sand from the beach so that we can really observe this underneath the microscope. You'll need a small cup to mix these soil samples with water in order to see them underneath the microscope. You'll need some water, a dropper or a pipette. And then the big piece of equipment for this activity is our AmScope compound microscope. And so this microscope is really amazing. It is pictured here on the screen. It has really given us the ability to show what's being shown on the microscope through the computer, through a USB. So the camera where you would be putting your eye to look into the microscope to magnify what you're looking at, that has a camera. It's connected with a USB that goes right to your computer. And then you can literally share what you're seeing through a screen share on Zoom with your students by downloading its compatible application, which is available for Mac and PC through AmScope's website. And I'm sure there's many other microscopes that have this capability. But for us, this one was the most affordable. It's a little bit more affordable now. I think we purchased it a few years ago. And it works really, really well with our MacBooks, which is what we use. And so the last thing that you'll need then are microscope slides and cover slips. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over to my microscope view, and everyone can slightly see me. I hope you can people see me? Or is
Yeah, I think you're on the side.
Okay, so what I usually do before I start this is I usually put up a picture of living soil and dead dirt, just a photo of it, give the kids a couple minutes to look at those pictures and try to create a hypothesis as to which they think is alive and why. So I want them to really look at that soil and see, wow, it's wet. It's got organic matter in it. It's got mulch. It's got dead leaves. It's got broken up twigs. It's got worms in it. It's got all types of insects that they can kind of observe in a nice sample of soil versus just this dry, cracked sand, and they'll be able to determine pretty quickly, these third graders, which one's alive and give me some reasons why. And then we'll pull out the microscope and I'll show them that we're going to magnify this and really see what it is in this soil sample that's making this alive. I like to start off by showing them just this 1 teaspoon of soil that I'll put in here. Has about 1 million bacteria in it, just to give them an idea of how much we're working with, how much life we're actually working with. I put that in a little cup, something like this, mix it up with water, put a few drops on the slide, and then turn on the microscope. Let me just pull it out over here. And so just by seeing, here we go. So this is a sample, just 2 drops of soil that I mixed together with some water. 2 drops from this little dropper here on this microscope slide gave me this, this much to look at. And so what I also have, it's included in our teacher tools kits, is a worksheet where kids can see a couple of different types of organisms that they might be able to recognize in here. I keep it very simple. I say most of what you're looking at is bacteria. I talk about the role that these decomposers play and what decomposing is. I talk about organic matter that you'll be able to see in here, these dark clumps or that are around, and what the role of organic matter is in soil. Occasionally, we get a really fun microorganism called a protozoa that will zoom by, and they love that. They're screaming their heads off and really enjoying what's going on. So you can move this around. What I like to do is tell them to kind of sit and wait and watch for a second. And if you just sit here for about a minute and really look closely, you can start to see each of those little dots moving around, up and down, left and right, moving around on the screen. And once they notice it, it's kind of like when you're looking up at the night sky. As you look higher, like more and more, you're able to see more and more stars. Your vision comes more into focus. Same thing happens here. You get to see more and more, and you're able to point out a bit more of what you're looking at, from protozoa to different types of mites that you might see in there, pieces of leaves, pieces of twigs and sticks. You can even see plant cells. So this is a really cool activity. Just this microscope in general, you can do so much with it. So this is one of our activities that we have adapted. This is part of our module 3, so our more advanced module. After kids learn about organic matter and healthy soil, then we get to really look a little bit deeper into what is actually creating that soil and making it healthy and alive. And then, after showing this sample that is full and lively, we switch over to our sample of dead dirt. So what I've done is just put a couple of grains of sand on here on this slide and putting it under here, putting it into view. It's just, there's really not much to look at, and that's the point. You've just got some kind of transparent, different particle sizes of rocks in here. There's nothing really moving around. It's definitely not nearly as full as what you were looking at before. So this is our example of how can you expect to really grow a good crop, a good plant in something like this versus your live soil. What would you rather grow in if you were a plant? So this is our Soil is Alive activity. And we have the procedures, the materials, links to where we purchased this microscope, and how you can download the app all in our toolkit that we'll provide a link to you for at the end. All right, I'm going to switch over to our next activity. All of this stuff can be quite tedious on a desk, so especially when you're working with glass slides. So one thing is just trying to be careful with everything. But all right, so for this next activity, this is our WaterWise activity, where we are going to be looking at an aquifer and learning about how farmers here in Ventura County and most all over the place in California are getting their water from groundwater. And so this is an activity that was adapted from the Groundwater Foundation's Awesome Aquifers activity. We have a link to their page if you want to look at what they've done. We really loved their activity, and so we changed it up a little bit. And the objective of this one is for students to understand the significance that fresh water plays in agriculture and for living organisms. So they'll be introduced to the water cycle and processes that are involved in obtaining fresh water for agricultural purposes by observing a small scale replica of an aquifer and groundwater extraction. And so the way that we do this, here's some of the materials that we use. I start this program off by showing them a water cycle visual so they can really understand condensation, precipitation. Most of these terms they've heard before, some have not heard it before. We usually have a really big mix in individual classes of who's heard of what. So it's really good to just review in general what the water cycle is, what its purpose is, how much fresh water we actually have on this planet, which is very, very little. About 1% to 2% of the water that's on this planet is actually fresh water. And so it's really cool. They love to learn that this water never leaves our planet. It just changes form and changes location. And so when they learn about, gosh, it never really rains here in California, we don't get much of that, we don't have a lot of rivers, we don't have a lot of lakes, what they really get out of it is, oh, there's water beneath our feet. They understand what the purpose of a well is, and then they'll get to see how it's extracted and the things that they need to think about if you're extracting groundwater. So they learn a lot from this activity. So the way that we do this, We have our water cycle visual, and then the tools that you need to complete this activity. Dispenser pumps. We use lotion pumps, which you'll see in a minute. Here's this, you'll see it. We use sheer pantyhose tights, which is used as a well cover to prevent gravel and dirt from entering our well. We use a clear rectangular container as our model aquifer. We use gravel, rubber bands, a small clear 4-ounce cup, kind of like this. Usually this stuff's just lying around the house. You can use a small transparent cup. This is to collect your water that you're going to get from that aquifer. And then a large pitcher full of water that I like to tint blue. That's why I say food dye, just because it's a little easier for the kids to see. So I'll show you how this activity is done. Stop my share. You're going to look at me now. All right, how's that? You see it? Okay, good. All right, so what we have here is my model aquifer. What we've done is we've purchased additionally a couple things. I got some mulch from outside and I put that over the top to kind of represent the thin soil layer that's at the top of our surface. And then some trees representing the orchard. Our farm that we do our programs at is more of an orchard. We have lots of lemons and figs and avocado and persimmon trees. So we wanted to kind of give them an idea of what they'd be seeing at the farm when they ultimately do get to go back there and see us. So we start off this activity by first preparing the materials. So before I pull any of this out, I've already prepared the materials. I have filled up this container with gravel, with mulch, put the trees in their place. I filled up the beaker with water and I've tinted it blue. I have cut out a square piece of nylon from the pantyhose and then got a rubber band so it's ready to use as a well cover. And you've got your lotion pump ready. So you've got all of this stuff ready before you begin your activity. You discuss groundwater and then you pull this out and talk about how we're going to extract it. So we discussed the importance of fresh water, like I said before, and how it's extremely important for the survival of most living organisms, with special attention given to the needs of crops for fresh water. And then after discussing key terms associated with the water cycle, we transitioned to this aquifer activity by defining groundwater as part of the water cycle, which is found underground, in between rocks, and in the soil beneath our feet. So it's stored in aquifers. Once it seeps down beneath the soil surface, you have an aquifer, your water is stored, which is made usually of rocks and stones. So these white rocks here representing our aquifer. And aquifers store water that seeps in from the surface. And so I like to drop some statistics on them, talking about how 51% of people in the United States get their drinking water from groundwater. So that's everyone in the United States. Half of us are getting our drinking water from groundwater. And then how agriculture is the #1 user of groundwater in the United States. And here in Ventura County, groundwater supplies 85% of the water that's used in agriculture. So we're getting a humongous portion of our water that provides us with our food from beneath our feet, underneath the ground. So that's why this is a really important lesson for kids to learn. Understand where we're getting our water from and where they're getting their water from too. So looking at this model aquifer here, we've got the top layer of gravel in the container representing your surface, and beneath it, the aquifer where the groundwater is stored. And so then what I do is I make it rain. We are hoping to get some way that we can make it rain, get it a little bit more, but for now, we're gonna just dump it on there. And I ask the kids to observe, as I'm pouring this water in here, just to observe how the water seeps beneath the surface. So I asked them to watch as the blue water seeps beneath the soil surface down into the aquifer. And you want just enough water to kind of fill up that top layer, to the top layer of your gravel here. And that all depends on how much gravel you use. So then I explain, we powder our water in here. That surface water is water that's found above the ground or above the gravel. And that water beneath the surface level is what we're calling our groundwater. So some examples of surface water include rivers, lakes, and streams. And one thing that I like to do is actually move the gravel to one side of the container. So if I just move the water over to one side of the container here, students can observe how water exits the aquifer and then actually fills in the open space, creating a lake, which is something they can all recognize. So this is telling them and showing them how surface water and groundwater are actually connected. It changes as we move the landscape, as the landscape moves naturally on its own. So that's just an example that I like to do. I cover it back up. And then I talk about how we are going to extract this groundwater. What we need to do is we need to build a well. And so I discussed that this lotion pump here is going to be our model well right here. So this is our well. This is what we're going to use to access our water. And what we need to do is we don't want all that dirt. We don't want all that rock. We don't want all that sand that's down there collecting our getting stuck in our well and clogging it up and clogging up our lotion pump. So what we do is we put a little bit of nylon on, and that represents our well cover. This is our well cover. You tie it on with a nice rubber band. And then we talk about location, because location is super important for your groundwater and where you're getting it. It's extremely important that you don't have salt water getting into your groundwater. You don't want to be next to the ocean. Salt water is something we talk about in our previous modules, and how plants cannot function on salt water, neither can we, neither can their dogs or cats. We need fresh water. So we make sure that we're not near any sources of contamination as well. We don't want to be near an oil well. We also want to make sure that our well is located above the tip of our well, where we're at the top of it, is actually located high above the surface so that we don't have any seepage. We don't have any contaminants coming in from the streets when it rains, or from pesticide runoff or fertilizer runoff. That'll contaminate our water as well. So we find a nice place. I kind of build up the rocks a little bit here. I stick it in, and then we pump out our water. I just want to make sure we can all see this. There we go. And usually I get these like massive oohs and ahs from the kids. They're like, oh my gosh, it's working. So there we go. This is our water. We water the trees in our orchard. And then that is the end of our activity for third graders. This can go so far. You can contaminate your well, and then you can pull up the water and you can clean it using charcoal. And then there's filters. There's also a way that you can, there's so many different things that you can do with this activity. And you can see on their website how many ways they've adapted it for different grade levels. So you can actually, I think, make this even a high school activity. But for this level, we just keep it here at the basic groundwater extraction level for our third graders. And these are two of the activities that we do for our Farm Lab online presentation. Oh, I would love to do edible. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. The website that she is referring to is, Patrice, do you want to?
Yeah, the website I'm referring to is the Groundwater Foundation. I mean, you could Google Groundwater Foundation. I think it's Awesome Aquifers activity, but this is also in that toolkit that we're going to share with you. Underneath the WaterWise activity, I linked just their website at the top so that you can access it and see just how far they've taken it and how we've changed it a little bit.
Yeah, and I've linked that a couple of times in there. It's the Google Drive link. I can link it again if it gets a little bit up, but that has the objectives, description, material list, and links to purchase the materials, the microscope, slide covers, gravel, everything that Patrice needed to do that, as well as a link to that Awesome Aquifer website where we've adapted from, and then some worksheets. The worksheets are designed for third graders. So there's some like, what do you see under the microscope, a drawing activity. There's a list of kind of what organisms we find in the soil. There's a word search. There's a couple other fun things for kids to be able to do with these. Thank you for Patrice for adding that. I think we have a comment too. You can spray with yellow or staggly groundwater to show the environmental effects of smog, acid rain, and pesticides.
Yep. And then we have like, there's a way that you can also do like well testing sites. So you can contaminate one half of it with pesticides and smog and different colored water, and show how once you have one side that's been detected, that's been contaminated, you can work to stop it so that the whole well doesn't become contaminated too. So there's so many ways you can take it.
Awesome. Is the toolkit a text document? Is a live demo like what Patrice did included for view? The toolkit is a text document. It's a Google Word doc. And then is there a live demo? Like we don't actually, but we probably should record Patrice doing those lessons so that we have them. That would be a great idea. So we don't currently have that. I believe this is being recorded. So I don't know if these are going to be made available. Yeah, this is recorded. So, I think these will be made available after the conference as well. But this is definitely something that we can record and put on our websites too, if that's something that teachers would find helpful, like a demonstration of these activities. That would be so great. It's less intimidating for teachers to be able to see this. Wonderful. We'll plan on that.
Yeah,
We'll do that. Yeah, thank you. If there's any other questions for Patrice, I can read them out, or for Mary or myself regarding our programs or anything. I know we're done a little bit. I think we had until 3, but Judy?
Aren't there any other great questions? This is so interesting. It's a great example of how you're really getting in there and adapting to what we need to adapt to. But let's see, any more questions? Oh, this has been great. This has been great. This has been great. I will mention that that we are recording, and so these will all be kind of polished up and be made available within the next 2 weeks. So you have your recording, because that was a great presentation.
Yeah. And
any other questions?
I do see a question. Something I ran into today actually that I would just comment on is not every 3rd grader that we've come across can actually read. And so that's something that the visuals, again, even if it's English second language students, a lot of students just aren't ready for reading as well. So that factored into our worksheets that we created, trying to make them really visual, and also our slides being lots of pictures.
That's a great idea.
And then I saw a question about the camcorder. So I am going to link the camcorder that we got in here too. What kind of Vixia one, because that's been really helpful for all of our programs as well. Yeah, I'll add the info about the camera and the editing program in the chat. I will say about the editing program, we use Adobe Premiere. I know iMovie is something a lot of people use. If you're familiar with the Adobe programs like Photoshop or InDesign or Illustrator, Premiere is pretty easy to pick up because it's a lot of the same controls. So myself and one of my coworkers, Emily, were able to kind of teach ourselves with a lot of YouTube help over summer on how to edit video. But I will link that as well.
And Judy, I just wanted to thank you again for holding this conference. So many events have gotten canceled this year, and I just think it's wonderful that you did not cancel it. You pushed forward and made it happen. So that's what it's all about.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, we never even thought, I think, of canceling it. I think it was the choice of, would anybody come? And we ended up doing a survey with our teachers back in June, and it was like 90% of the people said, no, I'm not coming, but yes, I'd love a virtual conference. So we're thrilled to be basing ourselves in Ventura, and you guys did just a great job. Mary, I remember when you came to Sacramento, and I do have to say, yeah, we've been around a long time. I do have to say that Caitlin also participated in our planning meeting back when we thought it was going to be an in-person conference. So, and Patrice, great job. That those are really great resources, and I'm sure it gets everybody's mind turning. And so we want to thank you for being a a great part of the conference and helping us kick off the workshops. And I guess it's time now, unless you guys have anything else, ladies?
I would just like to give one more shout out to my high school FFA teacher who
Yes.
is on here, Katie Alling. I would literally not, I ended up going to Cal Poly SLO and then interned with SEAG my senior year. And then went got my master's and came back to SEAG, and I would not be in this career if it wasn't for Mrs. Alling. So
Ooh,
teachers that teach
yay.
about ag truly do make a difference.
Yes, yeah, that's touche for our ag teachers for sure. That's great.